Imagine this. You are sitting across from someone you trust, asking them a simple question. Their mouth says one thing, but their shoulders just did something you almost missed. A tiny lift, a barely their rise and fall. It lasted maybe half a second. You felt it more than saw it. That flicker of movement was not random. It was their body confessing what their voice refused to say. This is the micro-shrug, and once you learn to spot it, you will never unsee it. The micro-shrug is not the dramatic shoulder throw you see when someone says I didn't know out loud. That version is theater. The micro version is a glitch. It is the body trying to leak the truth while the conscious mind is busy building a lie. It happens in the space between the question and the answer. It is the nervous system hitting the panic button before the brain can lock the door. Here's what makes it dangerous to miss. Guilt does not always announce itself. People who feel caught do not always sweat or stutter or look away. Sometimes they stay calm, sometimes they smile, but the body keeps score, and the micro-shrug is one of the ways it pays the bill. The mechanism behind this is rooted in something old. Your autonomic nervous system does not care about your poker face. It evolved long before lying became a social skill. When early humans faced danger, the body had one job: react faster than the mind could think. That system is still running. So when someone feels cornered by a question, even if they have rehearsed the answer 1,000 times, the body still tries to protect itself. The shoulders rise because the body is bracing. It is the same reflex you see when someone flinches before impact, except this time, the impact is emotional. The threat is being found out. The micro-shrug usually happens right as the person begins their response. You ask where they were last night. Their shoulders twitch upward as they say, home. You ask if they used your car. The shrug flickers as they say, no. The movement is so small it looks like they are adjusting their posture. But it is not adjustment. It is admission. What separates a micro-shrug from normal body language is the timing and the mismatch. If someone says, I have no idea, and shrugs, that is congruent. The words and the body agree. But if someone says, I was definitely there, while their shoulders are doing that tiny lift, you just caught a contradiction. Their mouth is certain, their body is not. That gap is where guilt lives. Now, here's the part most people get wrong. They think any shrug means lying. It does not. The micro-shrug specifically signals uncertainty or discomfort with what is being said. It can mean, I'm not sure this will work, or I do not want to talk about this, or I know this sounds bad. But when paired with a declarative statement that should carry confidence, it becomes a red flag. If someone is telling you a fact they should know for certain, and their body is shrugging, even microscopically, something is off. Let's get tactical. You want to know how to actually see this in real time without staring like a robot. First, do not watch their face. Faces lie better than shoulders. People practice their smile. They rehearse their eye contact. But nobody practices controlling a micro-shrug because most people do not even know it exists. So when you ask a loaded question, your peripheral vision rests on their shoulder line. Do not stare, just stay aware. Second, ask the question and then go quiet. This is critical. Most people ruin the read by talking too much. They ask the question and immediately follow up with another one or fill the silence with noise. Do not do that. Ask, then stop. Let the silence sit there like wait. Guilt hates silence. It makes people rush to fill the gap. And in that rush, the body moves before the brain catches up. That is when the shrug happens. Third, watch for clusters. One micro-shrug might mean nothing. Maybe they are cold. Maybe their shoulder itched. But if you see the shrug combined with a shift in eye contact, a change in breathing, or a sudden hand movement, you are watching a full system alert. The body is throwing every signal it has because the lie is too heavy to carry cleanly. Here is a real-world example. You suspect your partner went through your phone. You ask them directly. They say no, they would never do that. They respect your privacy. Fine. But as they say, never, their shoulders do that little lift. Then they touch their neck. Then they look at the ceiling like they are remembering something that never happened. Each piece alone could be random. Together, They form a pattern. The micro-shrug was the tell. The rest was confirmation. The evolutionary reason this works is simple. Lying is expensive. It requires the brain to do two things at once: construct a false narrative and suppress the true one. That takes processing power. The body, meanwhile, is still running on autopilot. It does not care about the story you are building. It cares about threat response. So while your prefrontal cortex is busy making you sound believable, your limbic system is screaming, "We are in danger," and your shoulders are reacting accordingly. The shrug is the body trying to minimize. It is a physical version of, "I do not know. Do not hurt me." Now, the cynical truth. Most people will never learn to read this because they do not want to. Catching a micro-shrug means you have to sit with uncomfortable possibilities. It means you might confirm something you were hoping was not true. It is easier to take the words at face value and move on. That is why liars get away with it. Not because they are good at lying, but because most people are bad at watching. But if you do learn this skill, it changes everything. You start seeing guilt in job interviews when candidates inflate their experience. You see it in meetings when someone takes credit for work they did not do. You see it in relationships when the answer does not match the energy. The micro-shrug becomes a universal translator for the things people will not say out loud. Here's the part nobody tells you. Once you start catching micro-shrugs, you also start noticing your own. You will ask yourself a question, tell yourself a lie, and feel your shoulders twitch. That is the moment you realize how much you have been lying to yourself. The same mechanism that exposes others will expose you, and that is deeply uncomfortable, because it means you cannot hide from your own guilt either. The antidote is not to become paranoid, it is to become precise. Use this skill in moments that matter. If someone is telling you they love you, do not analyze their shoulders. But if someone is telling you they did not betray your trust, and their body is screaming otherwise, pay attention. The micro-shrug is not evidence in a court, but it is a clue. And clues compound. Let's talk about what happens when you confront someone after catching a micro-shrug. Do not lead with, "I saw your shoulders move." That sounds unhinged. Instead, give them space to correct themselves. Say something like, "Are you sure?" or "Take your time," or "You seem uncertain." If they were lying, that second chance will often make them crack. If they were not, they will just reaffirm with more confidence. Either way, you learn more. But here is the real power move. Sometimes you catch the micro-shrug and you say nothing. You just file it away. You do not react. You do not accuse. You just know. And then you watch what they do next. Because people who feel like they got away with something will often get sloppy. They will contradict themselves later. They will add details that do not fit. And when that happens, you will already know where the crack started. The micro-shrug was the first domino. Everything else was just gravity. One more thing to understand. Micro-shrugs are not always about malicious lies. Sometimes they appear when someone is lying to protect you. A friend says they are fine when they are falling apart. A parent says they do not need help when they are drowning. The shrug is there because the lie is kind, but still a lie. The body knows the difference between honesty and performance, even when the intention is good. So if you see a micro-shrug in a moment like that, the move is not to interrogate. It is to create safety. Sometimes the best response to a lie is not confrontation, but an invitation to tell the truth when they are ready. The takeaway is this. Most people go through life thinking words are the main channel of communication. They are not. Words are the cleaned-up version, the edited draft. The body is the raw file, and the micro-shrug is one of the most honest things a body can do. It is the moment the system fails to keep the secret. It is a confession in motion. And if you learn to read it, you gain access to a layer of reality most people never see. You do not need to become a human lie detector. You do not need to mistrust everyone. But in the moments that matter, when the stakes are real and the answer could change everything, watch the shoulders. Let the silence do the work. And when you see that tiny rise, that barely there lift, you will know. The body just told you what the mouth refused to say. That is the user manual for guilt, written in muscle memory, printed in real time, and completely invisible to anyone not paying attention. The problem is that most people stop at detection. They learn to spot the micro-shrug, feel a rush of clarity, and then freeze. Because knowing someone is lying and knowing what to do about it are two completely different skill sets. You just watched their shoulders confess. Now what? Do you call them out immediately? Do you pretend you saw nothing? Do you test them further? This is where most people fumble. They catch the truth, but lose the game. Here is what happens in that moment. Your brain floods with adrenaline. You just saw something you were not supposed to see. It feels like catching someone mid-crime. And your instinct is to react, to say something, to let them know you know. But that instinct will betray you almost every time. Because the moment you reveal that you caught them, you hand them control. They know you are watching now. They know the game is active. And people who lie are often better at adjusting than people who tell the truth. So the first rule after catching a micro-shrug is this: do not react in real time. Your face needs to stay neutral, not blank, not robotic, just unremarkable. If you tense up, if your eyes narrow, if you lean back even slightly, they will feel it. And once they feel it, they will course correct. They will add details to the lie. They will over-explain. They will flood you with information to drown out your suspicion. And now, instead of one clean tell, you have a mess of data to sort through. The smarter play is to absorb the information like a stone absorbs water. Let it sink in. Let the conversation continue. Ask a follow-up question that seems unrelated, but is actually a trap. For example, if they just told you they were at work all night and their shoulders twitched, do not ask, "Are you sure you were at work?" That is too direct. Instead, ask, "Did you see Marcus before you left?" Now, they have to build on the lie. They have to add a character to the story. And every addition is another chance for the story to break. People can rehearse one lie. They cannot rehearse a whole ecosystem of lies. This is where you start building a map. Every micro-shrug is a pin on that map. Every hesitation, every addition, every time their body contradicts their words. You are not collecting proof for a trial. You are collecting points of pressure. And once you have enough points, the structure collapses on its own. You do not even have to push. You just have to wait. But here is the trap that catches good people. Once you start watching for micro-shrugs, you can become addicted to the hunt. You start seeing guilt everywhere. Your partner takes 2 seconds too long to answer a question, and you read it as deception. Your friend cancels plans, and you scan their body language through the phone like you have X-ray vision. This is the cost of the skill. You gain access to hidden information, but you also lose the ability to take things at face value. And that loss will poison relationships faster than any lie ever could. The antidote is calibration. You need a baseline. You need to know what someone looks like when they are relaxed and telling the truth. Most people skip this step. They meet someone, ask them a loaded question, see a micro-shrug, and assume guilt. But maybe that person just has anxious shoulders. Maybe they shrug when they are thinking. Maybe they grew up in a house where every question felt like an interrogation, and their body learned to brace by default. If you do not know their baseline, you are just guessing. So when you meet someone new, watch them in low-stakes moments. Watch how they move when they talk about the weather. Watch their shoulders when they tell a story about their day. Watch them when they are comfortable. That is your control group. And then later, when the stakes rise, you will know what deviation looks like. You will see the difference between "this is just how I move" and "I am holding something back." Without the baseline, you are reading static as signal. Now, let's talk about the people who know you are watching. Because once someone realizes you can read micro-shrugs, they will start controlling them. Or they will try to. And this is where the game gets layered. A person who knows they are being watched will often overcompensate. They will lock their shoulders down. They will keep their body unnaturally still. And that stillness is its own tell. Because natural human movement has rhythm. It has variance. When someone freezes their body to avoid giving anything away, they look like a statue trying to pass as a person. And that is louder than any shrug. The other thing aware liars do is flood you with fake tells. They will shrug on purpose at random moments to make you think every shrug is meaningless. They will touch their face, shift their weight, break eye contact, all while telling you the truth, so that when the lie comes, you have no idea what to trust. This is advanced level deception. And if you are dealing with someone operating at that level, the micro-shrug is no longer your best tool. You need to shift to pattern analysis. You need to watch how their story changes over time. You need to see what details stay consistent and what details morph. Because memory is stable, lies are fluid. But most people are not that sophisticated. Most people lie in the moment and hope you do not notice. And for them, the micro-shrug is an open book. It is their body keeping a record they forgot to delete. And if you stay patient, if you do not tip your hand, that record will give you everything you need. Here is the emotional cost nobody warns you about. Once you get good at reading guilt, you will start catching people you love. You will see your best friend shrug when they tell you they are happy for you. You will see your parent shrug when they say everything is fine. You will see your partner shrug when they say they are not upset. And those moments will hurt worse than any malicious lie. Because you will realize how much performance exists inside love. How much people hide to keep the peace. How much they lie to protect you or themselves or the relationship. And you will have to choose. Do you call it out every time? Do you force honesty at the cost of comfort? Or do you let some lies live because the truth would be harder to hold? This is the moral weight of the skill. You do not just see guilt. You see the architecture of why people lie. And sometimes that architecture is more fragile than you want it to be. There is also the version of this skill that turns inward. Once you know how to catch a micro-shrug in others, you will start catching your own. You will tell yourself you are fine and feel your shoulders twitch. You will say you are over something and your body will shrug before your brain finishes the sentence. And that is the moment the skill stops being a weapon and becomes a mirror. Because if you are honest, you have been lying to yourself longer than anyone has been lying to you. The final layer is this. The micro-shrug is not always about guilt in the way you think. Sometimes it is about shame. Sometimes it is about fear. Sometimes it is about not wanting to disappoint you. The shoulders rise because the person feels small, because they know the truth will cost them something. And yes, that cost might be deserved, but it also might not be. So before you use this skill to dismantle someone, ask yourself what you are actually looking for. Are you looking for the truth? Or are you looking for permission to leave? Because those are two different missions, and the micro-shrug will give you both. The takeaway is simple but heavy. Learning to read guilt is easy. Learning what to do with that knowledge is where most people fail. You can catch every lie. You can see every shrug. You can map every contradiction. But if you do not know what you are building toward, all you have is a pile of broken trust and nowhere to put it. The skill is not the endgame. The skill is just the key. What you unlock with it is up to you.